first things first. It is Friday. We made it. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This right here is Nick Wright. Lots of basketball to talk about. Also, some football. Carson Wentz got a big, new, shiny, very lucrative deal. The Patriots aren't giving up on Gronk returning just yet. But yes, we are going to start with the NBA Finals. For Golden State, a familiar face in a familiar place. Kevin Durant remains on the sideline, ruled out for tonight's Game 4 against the Toronto Raptors. But Warriors head coach Steve Kerr says there's a good chance he does come back and play in Game 5. And after missing Game 3, Klay Thompson is a go for tonight as the Warriors try and even up the series at 2 games apiece. Nick, I'll start with you. Do the Warriors have the edge with Klay returning, but KD's still out?
I think they're going to win tonight, and they need to, because the dynasty's on the line tonight. This era, they come back next year, different team, try to go to your 6th straight finals. I get it, but they are not coming back from down 3-1. Because it happened twice in the same postseason just a few years ago, both times involving the Warriors, I think people have overestimated how easy that is to do. Happen, right? 11 times in NBA history. 4 times in the last 15 years.
And you're talking about coming back from
3-1 down. Have we seen this happen? Only twice in the last 30 years have we seen, 40 years actually, have we seen it happen in the conference finals or beyond, both in 2016. The Warriors doing it against OKC and then the Cavs doing it against the Warriors. So they need to have the edge tonight. They need to win tonight. They need to take care of home court tonight. Or, to me, the biggest intrigue left in the finals will be in which game will Toronto win their first championship in franchise history. I think that the Warriors have shown in this era, there's not many times their backs have been against the wall, not many times they've had to play desperate basketball C, but they have responded with great performances all of those times but one. Every time they had to have a win, whether it was the 3 straight against OKC, the 2 straight against Houston. I would argue Game 6 against Houston this year kind of fit that bill coming off the KD injury. They have responded each and every time, with the one exception being Game 7 against the Cavs in 2016. So I think the Warriors show up tonight. I think they show that championship medal, and I think that and maybe that alone gives them the edge. But they better, or else the Toronto Raptors are going to be NBA champions.
I know it sounds good hypothetically, and I could see how you think that they're going to win. Oh, they got to win. Oh, they got to show up. But obviously, are you thinking the Klay Thompson that we saw in the first 2 games, that's the Klay that we're going to see?
No, I don't think you're going to get full 100%
Oh, so you think the rest of them.
Klay.
So you think Iggy's going to start hitting shots? You think Andrew Bogut going to get a little more nifty on the pick and roll?
No, I'm not assigning
what
anything to
about Boogie
Bogut.
Cousins? You think he going to get in shape over the last 48 hours?
I think Boogie will be better than he was in Game 3. I don't think he'll be Game 2 Boogie, but Game 3 was as bad as we've seen him. I do think he'll be better.
Because I do believe the Warriors will show up. I do believe the crowd, it will take a Herculean effort for Toronto to win. But I do believe they're going to win because they are a better team than the injury-depleted Golden State Warriors. All them other examples you gave, those were the Warriors at full strength, bro.
Yeah, you're right.
This is a different game. Even if you say Klay was at 100%, I'll give you that. Okay, Klay played in 2 games. Well, they got outscored 6 of the 8 quarters in those games. I don't think he's going to be 100%, and I believe with the guard play, Van Vliet, they made a great adjustment starting him in the 3rd quarter of game number 3, played him the whole quarter, him and Kawhi, and Kyle Lowry's ability to be able to shoot the ball from deep. I believe it's going to give him some problems. I believe his hamstring won't be 100% the rest of the series. I believe Toronto gets it done tonight, so every other time except tonight, I believe the Raptors are going to pull off the upset tonight and take the commanding 3-1 lead back to Toronto.
Even with Klay out on the court, and say he does give you some of the offense that the Warriors needed in the last game, he's not going to be what you expect from him on defense, which is what you really need because of how well the entire Raptors team played last game.
Well, listen, he's not going to be full-strength Klay Thompson in any area of his game.
But the spot-up shooting is easier for him than all the running around and the guarding with that hamstring.
There's no question about that. Now, do I think a 75% Klay Thompson can be a better defender than Quinn Cook? I do. Now, will he have to guard differently? He's not going to be able to chase guys off screens. The entire Warriors unit is going to have to adjust their defensive schemes to understand that Klay is not going to be able to chase a guy around the way he typically would. And so that is an important element to it. And if this game were in Toronto, I might feel differently about it. And maybe I am just baking in too much of what's happened in the last 5 years. Maybe it is I need to see it to believe it. But are the Warriors going to lose back-to-back home games to put this portion of the dynasty on life support? I don't think they are.
They did that when they were healthy. When they had a full lineup, they lost 2 games to the Clippers.
Yes, but not back-to-back. But yes, they did lose 2 home games to the Clippers. Yep.
This year at Oracle, there hadn't been any magic. I mean, they've lost games by double digits. They've lost games by 20 points at home. So, yes, this is the way that you don't three-peat. This is the way that you get dethroned as champion. And as far as Klay is concerned, I think you guys are overestimating his shooting ability if he can't run. If he can't run, all I got to do is get up and get on his right side, Nick. Where's he going to go? Like, he doesn't like to dribble when he's healthy. You think he's going to be trying to put the ball on the deck tonight and get to the hoop? No, all I got to do is play up on his right side if he can't run. Like, if he's not 100%, he's a liability on offense, and he's a liability on defense. People just think, oh, it's easier for him to play offense. No, not if I get right next to him.
Well, he could. I think Jenna's point, and I understood, is if tonight we had the NBA All-Star Weekend, the three-point contest, he could hit those shots. Chris, your point is he ain't going to have those shots. He's going to have to find a way to get open. And I think that's a point well taken. I want to say one other thing, because you said in the lead, Steve Kerr's optimistic about Kevin Durant playing in Game 5. He's been optimistic about Kevin Durant playing in every game, every chance he's had the opportunity to say it. Before Game 3, said KD was going to scrimmage on Thursday. They didn't even have no real scrimmage on Thursday. I think Kevin Durant, the earliest we're going to see him is Game 6.
Kevin Durant said the last game, game number 3, I'll know a lot more tomorrow, which was yesterday.
Yes.
Right.
And you see what they announced yesterday?
Out 30 hours before the game.
I'll know a lot more. So they didn't increase his workload. Immediately they ruled him out. I didn't think he was going to play any more this postseason. And Game 5. I mean, that right now I'm back to Game 6.
Right.
If they can get it back to Oracle Game 6, man, then they'd be in business.
I'm on the exact same page as you. That the earliest you could see him is Game 6, and then you're running out of days now, that's one of the reasons why I've read some articles over the last 24 hours saying that the Warriors are not in the typical position a team would be in if they fall down 3-1 because they'll have Kevin Durant coming back. I don't know that they will have Kevin Durant coming back.
And I know it's impossible for them to feel comfortable because there have to be people in KD's camp that don't want him to come back. Man, you're too close to free agency. Nothing good can happen if you do come back. They're going to give Steph all the credit anyway. He's already going to get the MVP. It's just going to make you look bad and potentially, man, you could hurt yourself. So those whispers in his ear, and also his body is not responding. Yeah. It's been 4 weeks since he strained the calf, so I don't expect him before Game 6. So.
I'll say it again in an hour.
Yep.
Don't worry.
Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz is a very happy man today. That'll happen when you sign a 4-year, $128 million extension with nearly $108 million guaranteed. The former second overall pick has shined at times, but has been out the last 2 seasons, cut short due to injury. With Nick Foles traded, all eyes on Wentz now as the Eagles look to improve on last year's 9-7 season. CC, you surprised with the $108 million guaranteed given his injury history?
I'm not surprised by the amount, not surprised by the guarantees. Because if you look at it, and if you look at the number of quarterbacks, I think Nick has done a great job as far as getting people ready for what's getting ready to happen in the NFL. Not only are the economics at an all-time high as far as the salary cap, but what we're going to see in the next 2.5 years from a quarterback standpoint, it will rival the NBA. You will see NBA player contracts, and this is just one of them. Now, could they have waited? Yes. But Howie Roseman and them, they have decided in this offseason where they allowed Nick Foles to be able to go to Jacksonville, be their starter, that they're going to instill some confidence in the quarterback that, as you, in talking to you, has been like, yes, I don't trust him at this point. He hadn't been healthy. Why would I give him this money? Why wouldn't I let him play another year with him being a first-round pick? He's got that fifth-year option. Those are all legitimate concerns, Jenna. Football fans out there are like, yes, why would you pay him? He hadn't been consistent. But a lot of times in league, you got to take a chance. And you got to be able to try to marginalize your chances. And this is the best thing for Philadelphia, given the initial investment to get him. And to look at where he came from, the level of college that he was playing at, to realize the speed of the game is not too big for him. His accuracy, he is at elite level. He can throw the ball all over the field. He's a great athlete, got a really, really strong arm. So to me, I really believe in Carson Wentz. But it is obvious. He has gotten hurt. He's going to have to build a show that he can be a starting quarterback for 14 games in the season, and he's got to be able to get it done in the postseason. I believe that those things will happen, but your questions, Jenna, as far as his health, should I invest this type of money, they are legitimate.
I'd rather gamble on health than ability. The gamble with Carson Wentz is health. We're going to do it when we talk about other quarterbacks that might get paid early. The gamble is, what is their ability? How good can they be? We know how good Carson Wentz can be. Now, we haven't seen him in the playoffs, and there's always the chance that the moment's just too big for you. I think that's more, to be honest, an NBA thing than an NFL thing. I think every single NFL game is so important that if you can perform at an MVP level in the regular season, the idea that you're going to get to the playoffs and be some wilting flower and say, oh my God, I can't handle the moment, I find that to be unlikely. Carson has shown top-level quarterback ability. I have that Matt Ryan chart. He is way near the top of it. But the injury questions are not isolated. In college, he broke his wrist. His first training camp in the NFL, he cracked his ribs. His second year in the NFL, he shattered his knee. His third year in the NFL, he had a stress fracture in his back. And, by the way, not his first stress fracture in his back. They discovered when he was in college, he had suffered a stress fracture in his back that went undiagnosed as a kid. So we're talking about year after year, this guy has gotten hurt playing football. And so it is a gamble. This is not the quarterback you draft number 2, turns into a star. You're obviously going to pay him because there are no red flags. There is a red flag. And it is, for some people, they feel very differently than me. I'd rather take the quarterback that has a limited ceiling, but I know is going to be out there, that I know is going to be able to play all 16 games. I'll bet on the upside of Carson Wentz. But the downside is not that he ends up not being a good quarterback. The downside is he ends up not being on the field for you because he got hurt again.
The thing you always say is the best ability is availability, and he hasn't shown that he can play all 16 games yet. You know he can, but we haven't seen him do it. Do you think Howie Roseman paid him from what he has done or on what he could do? Where do you think that desire to pay him came from?
He falls right in the middle. Because a couple years ago, Nick, he did have an MVP-type season. Yep. So he has made strides in what he's doing every day, but he's checked a lot of the boxes. Is he an NFL quarterback? Yes. Do you want him to be the face of your franchise moving forward? Yes. Now, on the negative side, is he going to be able to stay healthy? Like, that is the gamble in this. Pro sports, it's about gambling. But you got to be. Every team is gambling, but a lot of the gambles are more calculated. I like his talent level, though.
And so here is one other thing, though, because you guys know I've been very adamant about teams pay these guys earlier than they have to. The devil's advocate to it is, and we haven't seen how this contract is structured, but one of the benefits to paying him with 2 years left on his deal, as opposed to just 1 year left on his deal, is you can soften those cap hits over the course of 6 years instead of 5. So when you have $128 million in new money, and he's only slated right now to make $4 million this year, $22 million next year, and then it would average $32 million the rest of the way, you can have those cap hits start taking effect this season, have a few extra million this season, a few extra million next season. I don't know how they structured it, but that makes it so you don't have a balloon payment, Matt Stafford-esque, Joe Flacco-esque, in year 5 of this deal, where even if he has stayed healthy, it handicaps your team.
So what does this mean for their division rival Cowboys and Dak Prescott? Do you think it affects what the Cowboys end up doing with Dak?
It does affect them because it brings something else into the negotiation. There have been a lot of numbers that we have seen from quarterbacks, being Aaron Rodgers, that being Matty Ice, that being Russell Wilson. Those are numbers that the Cowboys, they don't want Dak to be even looking at them quarterbacks. And then you start to see a deal from a guy that's around the same age, in the same division. You can make some realistic comparisons. Now, Carson gave them the ability, because they did it early, to get a little hometown discount. I believe it will affect the negotiation. Dak probably feels like he's just as good as Carson Wentz.
And more accomplished.
He can say that, because the postseason win. He can't say it because the regular season. He can say, I'm more durable, I'm dependable, and I do have something more accomplished than him in the postseason.
Right.
So
he's played all 16 games every year, and he's played in playoff games and now won a playoff game. Whenever it comes to things like this, you guys know in an alternate universe, I'd be a lawyer or an agent, and I like to put myself in those situations. If I'm sitting across the table from from Dak Prescott's agent, I'm the Cowboys. When they bring up Russell Wilson or Ben Roethlisberger just got a new deal or Matt Ryan or Aaron Rodgers, I can easily say, okay, agreed, those guys got a ton of money. They all have been to a Super Bowl. Some of them have been to multiple Super Bowls. All those guys on the list have won a Super Bowl except for Matt Ryan. He's won a league MVP and been to a Super Bowl. So you can knock down that argument. But when they slide across the table to you, Carson Wentz, now your ammo is taken away from you, because you can say, what has he done that our guy hasn't done? Show me the award for almost won an MVP, because it doesn't actually exist. We talk about it all the time, and Dak can say, his representation can say, are we about winning? If you're about winning, my guy's better. My guy's out there more often. My guy has shown he's led his team to a 13-win season. Has Carson? So to me, there's two quarterbacks that saw this payday, got very happy. Dak Prescott and a quarterback who shares an agent with Carson Wentz's agent, and that's Jared Goff. Because Jared Goff is also coming up on a deal, same draft class as Carson Wentz, and he's been to a Super Bowl.
Right.
And he's been durable. And so Dak, we talked about around $30 million a year for Dak. Carson just got $32 million. It feels like that's where this thing's going to fall.
Today on FS1, the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup kicks off as host nation France faces off with Korea Republic in group play. Coverage begins at 2 Eastern. All matches will be live on Fox, FS1, and streaming on the Fox Sports app.
For U.S. purposes, if Korea could pull off the big upset, it could ease the United States draw moving forward once you get to the
we don't want easy.
Korea.
We want France to do well. We're cheering for the United States and France, because when we get to the knockout round, we're giving them an uppercut. Don't listen to them.
We're rooting for Korea. Okay.
Rooting for Korea.
Time for us to go viral. Steph Curry had one of the best performances of his career in Game 3. However, this is his first finals appearance without LeBron. He was asked about that on a Jimmy Kimmel Live segment. Take a listen.
You're back, I'm back. Guess who's not back?
Who's not back?
LeBron James.
LeBron's not back?
So I want you to sign this card for me. I wish you were here. So I want you to, can you sign a card for me? I give it to him, here.
You gonna give it to him?
Yeah, we're best friends.
I'm gonna sign it for him to say, save me a cigar later.
All right, thank you, man. Okay. Good luck, man. Do you miss the guy?
Me? No.
You need a bigger card. You only got. I don't think everyone's going to fit in here.
No, they will.
This card's as small as you.
What do you think he's doing right now?
I think I saw him on the internet. I think it was Taco Tuesday the other day or something. I don't know.
Taco Tuesday?
Yeah.
I love tacos.
Me too, man.
Not just Taco Tuesday, but Taco Tuesday.
That is what LeBron did on his Instagram. Now, he got a little criticized for that, probably fairly, but Jenna was
thanks
letting
for
people
mentioning
know.
that.
We had Taco
everybody.
Tuesday
I
at
was
the
being
house.
LeBron.
You were
I
being
wasn't-
LeBron. That's why I mentioned that, of
That's
course.
okay.
Now, it should be mentioned, our friend, cousin Sal, from Lock It In on FS1.
Yeah.
He's a big part of Jimmy Kimmel Live, some of the brain trust behind Jimmy Kimmel Live. That's a really good show, and that guy does a great job.
It's
That's
fine.
good.
Good stuff.
It's good. I don't think they miss LeBron in the finals, though. I think they're very happy he's not there.
Time for your AT&T wake-up call. Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz will be in Philadelphia for a while. The team showed their faith in the oft-injured Wentz, signing him to a 4-year, $128 million extension with nearly $108 million guaranteed. CC, you surprised with all that guaranteed money, given Wentz's injury history?
Not surprised at the amount of money, surprised at the timing. I thought they might wait a little bit. He's still got 2 years left. But Howie Roseman, one of the better front offices we see in the NFL, always trying to win. And they get a little cap relief if they can take a couple of those years, move them up to the beginning of that contract, Nick.
And so that's one of the reasons you do it early. You can spread this money over 6 years instead of waiting another year and spread it over just 5. If during this contract, Carson Wentz plays 86 of the 96 regular season games you could over a 6-year stretch, the Eagles will be thrilled, and he will be well worth the money.
Okay.
If he suffers another injury that knocks him out for the most critical part of the season, that's, to me, the only way this contract blows up in their face, if he can't get over the injury bug that's bitten him now 4 straight seasons in some capacity.
All right, let's move on to the NBA now. Kyrie Irving is reportedly serious about joining the Brooklyn Nets this summer. And after trading away Allen Crabbe yesterday, Brooklyn can now create 2 max salary spots. Nick, we think Kyrie ends up in Brooklyn?
All signs are pointing to it now.
Yes.
Before this, the NBA rumor mill said Kyrie was leaning towards Brooklyn. Now Brooklyn, who finally was out of the pick hell of not having their own draft picks from that Boston trade. They finally got their draft picks back. No, we'll trade them away because they want to go for it right now, believing they can get Kyrie, maybe believing they can get someone to come with Kyrie, and if not, keep D'Angelo Russell with Kyrie. The Nets clearly think they've got Kyrie Irving all but locked up.
Yeah, there's a number of rumors going around about NBA free agents. This is one that you should believe. There's a lot of meat to this story, and not only is Kyrie more likely to sign with Brooklyn, you can believe behind the scenes, the word is Kyrie is trying to talk Kevin Durant leaving Golden State and coming to Brooklyn with that second max contract
we could
deal.
have, so Kyrie's trying to get the KD-Kyrie combo that we've been talking about all year in New York City.
Yes,
just
but
not
in Brooklyn.
Not right, just in a different borough of New York City.
I don't believe KD's going to go for that. He wants to be in the big city of New York.
CC, we're going to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
That too. To tonight's game now, Klay Thompson will be in the lineup after missing Game 3 with a hamstring injury. I keep falling into that trap. Same one. Warriors trying to even the series at 2 games apiece. See, what do you expect from Klay tonight?
I don't expect him to be at 100%. I expect him to be hampered on the offensive end, especially on the defensive end. I want to see him. I want to see him burst down the court. I want to see also what is the strategy for Toronto. Do they play right up in his hip pocket on his right side and run him off the three-point line to put pressure on that hamstring? And I want to see if he can be able to elevate on his jump shot. If he can't get elevation on his jump shot, I believe it will affect him. I don't believe he's going to be able to play the typical 36 to 40 minutes that Klay's going to play.
23 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists on right around 50% shooting. I think offensively we're going to have a pretty typical Klay Thompson game. I think they will find a way to scheme him open. How much of an impact can he have defensively? And is he so hampered by that hamstring that he becomes a defensive liability to where he can't play 30-plus minutes? If that's the case, Warriors be in a similar position they were in Game 3, which is very tough for them to find a way to win. I don't think that'll be the case. I think Klay will be a big part of a big Warriors win tonight.
And look for them to try to get him started quick like they did in Game number 2.
All right, well, while Klay is back, Kevin Durant, who missed the last 8 games, will not play in Game 4. Steve Kerr said there's a good chance, though, he might play in Game 5 or even Game 6. Klay Thompson spoke on what it would mean if KD were to miss the finals entirely.
Well, it would suck if Kevin can't come back. I mean, I still think we'd have a good chance to win the finals, but obviously that takes a huge hit. I don't think it would make us the clear-cut favorite anymore without him. You know, this team's very good.
So, Nick, who is the favorite in the series if KD doesn't return at all?
I picked the Warriors assuming KD wasn't going to play, so I'm not going to change my... Yeah, I said that I thought the Warriors could win even if KD never steps on the court. And by the way, people need to start recognizing the very real possibility KD never steps on the court. They're now talking about Game 5. You know why they're talking about Game 5? Because it's the closest game he hasn't been officially ruled out for. Just like they were talking about Game 4 and Game 3. And they keep pushing the goalpost just 1 yard out. And then when they get there, they push it another yard out. Steve Kerr said before Game 3, he's going to scrimmage tomorrow. He then yesterday, which was tomorrow, kind of a little time travel, had to come back and say, I misspoke, apologies, we didn't do a full scrimmage. Now they're going to have a weekend where one day they practice, one day they take a cross-country flight, or international flight, but cross-country. KD's going to play in Game 5? I don't think he is. Now, do I think the Warriors can win without him? I do. I think they've demonstrated that throughout these NBA playoffs, that they can win without one of their 3 super-duper stars, but not without 2 of their super-duper stars. But the other element that I find interesting, C, is something we talked about earlier, which is you mentioned the people close to KD. You wonder if some of them are telling him to take it easy. And Draymond had a very interesting quote that I don't want to read too much into, but the quote was, Kevin Durant at 75% is better than a lot of people. And to me, that quote's saying, man, Draymond wondering, if you are 75%, you could help. And so nobody knows what KD's calf is feeling, and I think KD desperately wants to get out there. He doesn't want them to lose, and he doesn't want them to win without him. So he wants to get out there, but he has a lot of things pushing and pulling on him that aren't just fibers in his calf.
Yeah, the number one thing that's pulling on him is his body. The reason why they ruled him out of game number 4 is because he's not capable of playing an NBA basketball game, let alone even try to get on the court and participate in 3-on-3. The injury is a lot worse than they ever anticipated, and part of the reasoning is KD's going to try to come back, and the greatest athletes, they're in the greatest shape, they have the fastest recovery. But the reality is, it's been over 4 weeks now since he strained that calf, and you can listen to Klay in his soundbite. You know what he said? Well, what if KD doesn't come back? He immediately, his whole disposition changed. Wow, that wouldn't be good. Like, I don't think we would be the favorite. Steve Kerr and the organization, they might realize that this team might be let down if we announce that KD's out. Like, he'll never come back. So let's just keep trying to extend this. Oh, man, he's going to go on the road with us. Remember game number 1 and 2?
Yeah.
You're like, Chris, does that mean he's closer or further away? I said, that's got to mean he's closer. He's traveling with the team. He's with the training staff. He's continuing to get treatment. They're giving us these little shots of him on the court in footies, not in his regular KD basketball shoes. Like, he's a long ways from playing. I wouldn't be surprised if we did not see him in game number 5.
So who do you think has the edge if he doesn't return?
Toronto has the edge. That's the reason why we picked him. We didn't think KD was going to be back. We've played 12 quarters of basketball. They have outscored Golden State in 10 of those. Only ones they didn't, game 1, game 2, and quarter number 3. They have outplayed the Warriors, and KD is not even practicing. Klay missed some time out with an injury. Now he's trying to come back. Yes, they're healthier. They have the home court advantage. Like, they have proven this throughout the season.
And it's hard for me to believe that this could be true, but I must acknowledge it could be true. I could end up being wrong that the Warriors are going to win tonight. You could end up being right that the Raptors are going to win tonight. And if that's the case, the Warriors are facing elimination in Game 5. And that's the earliest you could see Kevin Durant, and he wouldn't be 100%. The next time Kevin Durant takes the court, there's a better than 50% chance the Warriors' season's on the line. If it's Game 6, they would have to win both of these games in order for it not to be. If it's Game 7, obviously. So those are the circumstances in which Kevin Durant, if he returns, will be returning in the biggest game of the season for Golden State.
And that's why earlier you talked about the circumstances for which Golden State and which they face. Imagine Toronto tonight, Nick Nurse saying, you know something, guys? I don't know if KD going to play, but we win tonight's game. We're going to force him on the court.
Yeah.
Because if they lose tonight, KD, it's one game, all or nothing, and I believe he would try to play in that. Golden State wins tonight. It gives him a little more time.
At least another game where their season's not on the line.
Yes.
Right. All right, let's move on to the controversy from Game 3. The Raptors won, but Kyle Lowry was involved in an incident on the sideline with a fan who we now know was Warriors investor Mark Stevens. Stevens shoved Lowry when he ended up in the crowd diving for a ball. There were some repeated expletives thrown his way. The NBA has banned Stevens for 1 season and fined him $500,000 as a result. Before the ban was announced, Lowry talked to the media.
In that situation, I don't think I could have handled it any better. I'm glad I did what I did, and understanding that things could have been a lot different if I reacted a different way, or if I did something, or put my hands on them, or did anything in that nature. But the support I've gotten from fellow players, the league has been unbelievable. With that being said, I think more should be done. I don't think he's not a good look for the ownership group that they have, and I know Joe Lacob. Those guys are great guys. The ownership that they have, that I know, they're unbelievable guys. But a guy like that showing his true class, and he shouldn't be a part of our league. There's just no place for that.
See, what was your reaction when you saw this?
Well, I think that at least he should be suspended. I believe they should take his ownership away or force him to sell the team. In that unprovoked situation, as a minority owner of an NBA team, you're in the NBA Finals, the biggest stage for the business that you're in. You're a two-time defending NBA champion. I mean, how many playoff games have they played in, Nick, this 5-year run? How many playoff games?
Tonight will be 103, so they've played 102 playoff games.
This is what they do. Like the leaves change in the fall, this is what the Warriors do. And for this guy, as Lowry said, part of a great ownership group. Man, we talk about them up and down, what they do for the players, the environment they've created. Like, we have never had anything negative to say about the ownership, the general manager, Steve Kerr. Like, they do things, like they're great on the court, but there's a reason why.
Yep.
They got a plan that comes from the front office, and they have been first class. They have to remove the ownership from him, because this does not make any sense for an owner to go out of his way to push or to eat. A lot of people might say throw a punch or something at a player.
He certainly shoved him. At the very least, he shoved him.
And for no reason. Another thing that upset me besides the shove was, why did he have to respond to him in a profane way?
And
like,
curse at him.
Yeah, what was the meaning for that? To me, as an owner, and this is what we always say, that as you go from players to coaches to ownership, the responsibility goes up. It does not go down.
Of course.
And in this, not make an example, but there should be a clear-cut rule. If you're going to be associated with the NBA, like, we are not going to tolerate this. And I believe he should be banned from his ownership and not be able to participate in the NBA, Nick.
So I had a bunch of reactions. One is, I hate that this happened to anyone. I'm glad it happened to Kyle Lowry, though. One of the most mature and best people we have in this league, because there's a lot of really good guys who would have responded a lot worse than Kyle Lowry. And there's a lot of edge guys that would have responded a hell of a lot worse than Kyle Lowry. Man, you are at the height of competition. Your adrenaline is firing. This guy's just watching the game. And some stranger, some other grown man shoves you, it would not have been out of line at all. And if you watch it, there's a woman between he and the guy. If Lowry responds the way a lot of people would have, which is to shove him back, this could have been ugly. Right. I also feel badly for Lowry, though, because he had a great game. And for the league, that this became the headline. We didn't discuss it on yesterday's show because while we were on the air, we thought it was just some yahoo, just some random jerk fan that you're going to deal with. But when you know it's a part of the ownership group, that's why Adam Silver took it as seriously as he did. I've been told that Adam Silver spent almost his whole day on this yesterday, that he was talking to people around players in this league to see how they were feeling. Because the players, there is a growing sentiment amongst players that too often fans at these games are allowed to treat the players like they're tigers at the zoo, like tap on the glass. You know they can't bite you because there's no chance. You said this yesterday morning before you knew who this guy was. There's no chance this guy on the street tries to start mess with Kyle Lowry. No, he only does it because he knows he has a impenetrable force field in front of him.
It's Drake walking up and down the sideline, being able to touch the shoulders. I know there was no malice there with it, but still, there's no separation really in basketball between the players and the fans.
There's no separation between players and fans, but the fans know.
But let me tell you something. And since I was in the 9th grade, I have the pleasure of being in NBA locker rooms, being NBA courtside. That's the one thing that makes this game great. You can't do that in hockey. You can't do that. Go to Yankee Stadium. Like, they might get you downstairs, but you're not. When the action starts, you're up. You're a long ways away from it. That's what makes this game special. This is not the NFL where the fans are lifted up and you're disconnected from that special bond between, I'm watching this game, I'm watching these athletes, I get close enough, I can feel the vibration on my feet. Man, we used to have a saying that Man, if your feet ain't on the wood, the tickets ain't no good. Like, man, on the wood, you could feel the vibration of these tremendous athletes it's a privilege to be able to do that.
Of course.
And it's never been lost on me. And his privilege should be revoked from him.
And there is this was not a safety issue. Okay, this was a guy being a jerk. He wasn't actually going to hurt Kyle Lowry.
Yes.
But when the more incidents there are of fans in Utah going at Russell Westbrook in these confrontations,
sure,
the more normalized it becomes for something like this, the more possible it becomes for someone to do something that is a safety issue and for us to think, oh, it's just another fan acting a fool.
I think Adam Silver needs to just be consistent with this and start sending the message, listen, if you go to an NBA game, it is not okay to touch the players.
Of course.
All right? It is not okay. I don't care how much you paid for the seats. I don't care who you are. It is not okay to touch a player who is not expecting or he didn't reach out to touch you.
Yeah, 100%. And this is Dylan Byers reported, to your point about the ownership, that there's been some thought that this summer the majority owners are going to force him to sell his shares. So even if the NBA is not going to do it the way they did Donald Sterling, and this obviously wasn't Donald Sterling, Joe Lacob and company might take care of that for us.
Back here, first things first. Sports Illustrated senior writer Chris Mannix is here. Talk some basketball.
What up, Mannix?
What's happening?
See you, brother.
Lots to
Welcome
discuss.
back.
Hey.
All right, Chris Mannix.
Be a wise guy today, man. Take it easy on it.
Talking
trying to do
game
what I do.
4 for Golden State, a familiar face in a familiar place. Kevin Durant remains on the sideline, ruled out for tonight's game 4 against the Raptors. But Steve Kerr says there's a good chance he plays in game 5. And after missing game 3, Klay Thompson is a go for tonight as the Warriors try and even up the series at 2 games apiece. Mannix, do the Warriors have the edge with Klay returning, but KD still out?
Not until I see what Klay Thompson looks like
Yep.
in this game. I mean, immediately they're going to go at him and see if he can chase Danny Green around screens. I'd be surprised if Klay Thompson starts off on Kawhi Leonard. That's a little bit too much to ask, coming off a hamstring injury. But defensively is where he's going to get it done. I think he can be fine offensively, spotting up, shooting, just being a space creator. But defensively, they are going to be aggressively going after him. If he is 90, 95%, I still put the Warriors as the favorite to win that game. But if he's in the 75-ish range and he can be taken advantage of on the defensive end of the floor, this is the Raptors game to lose. If you're Toronto, every game is your series right now because the more the Warriors get healthy, the better their chance of winning the series. The Warriors can afford to go down 3-1 and get their guys back and still win this series. I don't think the Raptors, if the series is 2-2 and Golden State gets healthy for game 5, I don't think the Raptors can win.
I totally disagree with the idea that Golden State can go down 3-1 and come back to win this series.
Even if everybody comes back?
Well, because when Kevin Durant comes back, he's not Kevin Durant. At least not initially. Maybe if he comes back for game 5, maybe by game 7, if you get there, you would have to then win game 5 with a lesser Kevin Durant, win game 6 with a somewhat lesser Kevin Durant.
I also don't think you get 95% from Klay Thompson coming off a hamstring injury. I mean, I think that's the high end of what you would get.
And so for me, I do believe the Warriors can win tonight with Klay coming back with no KD, but I also think they have to win tonight in order to stay alive. We shouldn't, just because twice in the 2016 playoffs teams came back from 3-1 down, you know this, but everyone should remember, it's happened 11 times in the history of the NBA playoffs. A team has come back from 3-1 down. It's like 11 and 258, something like that. It's an absurd number. And so the Warriors got to win tonight, and the question will be about defense. It's what you're talking about. It's in this championship run, their defensive rating going into the finals, 99, 104, 101, 101, this year 110. And that was before Klay Thompson was lesser Klay Thompson. That's been a theme, throughout the regular season, that this Warriors team was the worst defensively of anyone in the last 5 years, and that has hurt them, and it's shown up in these finals where twice in these finals they've scored 109 points and lost because they couldn't keep the Raptors under 110.
Yeah, and they haven't been great on the defensive end this year, Nick. But also, with the injuries compiled for them, they lost the Hampton 5. I mean, Remember how we used to talk about those minutes that the Hampton Five were playing? They're like a Harlem Five now, not the Hamptons, bro. Like, they are struggling. Kevon Looney, him being out of the lineup, as the series goes on, it's getting bigger and bigger because from a defensive standpoint, Klay, I believe, is going to be hampered on the defensive end. And from a center standpoint, now they are putting two guys who are a liability who have to split up them 48 minutes. And that's in Andrew Bogut and that's in Boogie Cousins. Now they can't hide the center position. They can't play small. So Steve Kerr is limited with the things that he can do. And I just believe that the whole KD thing, because I took that from Klay's interview. And the interviewer did a good job, said, well, what if KD, and you could see his whole disposition just change. Well, what if KD's not there? He's like, wow, we're probably the underdog because this is a really good team. And Steve Kerr and them keep moving it off. Oh, he's traveling with the team. Great news to game number 1. No, that wasn't no great news. That's the only thing they could do. They couldn't leave KD at home, games 1 and 2. And now with the series, I'm like you. This is the most important game in franchise history for the Raptors because if they win, I want to force Kevin Durant on the court for the next game in a must-win game number 5.
But it's also so important because you want to avoid anything resembling some sort of trap game. If you're Nick Nurse, you want to make sure this team goes out there assuming Klay Thompson's 100% and that KD is there to play in game 5 because it would be too easy. Yeah, they got so much from everyone around Kawhi, but that's because the Warriors weren't 100%. It's a fake sense of confidence if Nick Nurse doesn't have that team ready to go.
Yeah, and I think they will be. I mean, everyone in that organization understands the opportunity that they have right in front of them. I mean, look, they came into this final series with confidence because I think, in spending the entire Eastern Conference playoffs talking to them, that they believe they were criminally underrated throughout the course of the entire playoffs. They believe they were on Golden State's level. But you go into this series, and now you don't have Durant, and whatever Klay Thompson turns out to be in Game 4, this is a kind of opportunity that never comes around for a team like the Toronto Raptors in sports. They have a chance to steal this from the Warriors, and I think they get that.
Well, if they are going to steal tonight's game, one thing that with the Raptors up 2-1 in the series, I think has been a little underrated that the Raptors need to clean up, particularly they need to clean up from what they did in Game 3, is they actually, in Game 3, to me, weren't great defensively. They won that game because they were 50, 40, 90 as a team, which never happens. You're 50, 40, 90 in a finals game as a team. Defensively, if I'm the Warriors and Klay's out there, why would I attack Toronto differently with Steph Curry than I did in Game 3? And just have some of those open. If Klay's as limited as you guys fear he might be, some of those open shots that were going to lesser players, have those go to Klay and see if Steph, try to duplicate what you did in Game 3 because Toronto didn't have an answer for Steph. And Toronto's defense, given who they were up against, allowing 109 to Steph Curry and friends is not the Toronto Raptors level defense that they had been showing certainly throughout the Milwaukee series or even in the first 2 games of these finals.
One thing that we must make sure that we're aware of, when I throw the ball to a Golden State Warrior who's not Klay, they're a triple threat because they can put the ball on the deck and get to the hole.
Sure.
Klay is not a threat to do that when he's healthy. So I know he's going to be hampered tonight because I'm staying right on him. All I got to do is stay right on his right hip, and then what is he going to do?
He's not going around.
I mean, for us to think that now Klay, he didn't rest game number 3. He couldn't play. Medically, they would not release him to get on the court. Klay tried to force him, but he couldn't. We can't forget he's not going to be 100%. And I'll debate your point as far as there was no answer. There was an answer. His name was Fred VanVleet, and he played those 12 minutes in that third quarter when Nick Nurse started him. That was the move of the third game. And what did Steph do in that third quarter? It negated him, slowed him down just a little bit. In the fourth quarter, what did Steph do?
In the fourth quarter, it really hurt him. In the fourth quarter, for back-to-back finals games, Steph Curry, from the 8-minute mark to the end of the game, has 0 made field goals. Like he is worn down. In the 30, I think he scored 15, but he wasn't as efficient. But in the fourth quarter, he wore down in both of these last 2 games. Game 2, when Klay went out, didn't take a shot once in the fourth quarter. In Game 3, 8-minute mark and beyond, didn't make a shot. That was, to me, the one part of the game they actually did negate.
And that's what happens when you just throw bodies at him over and over. He has to look at 2-3 guys in front of him, knowing he's going to have to pull up for a 26, 27-footer. That's a factor in all that.
Back here with Chris Mannix talking Kyrie Irving, and where he could end up next season. Right now, the betting favorite is the Brooklyn Nets, but nobody on this set bets. There is a path now for Kyrie to come to Brooklyn with some help. Brooklyn made a trade yesterday, sending away Allen Crabbe, giving them the ability to create 2 max salary slots this summer. Max, would Kyrie be making a good or bad decision joining the Brooklyn Nets?
It depends on who goes with him, right? I mean, I've been saying for over a year now that the lure of New York was real for Kyrie Irving. I had assumed all along it was the Knicks, but the Nets have put themselves in play. And clearly the Nets, in dealing away 2 first-round picks, significant assets for a rebuilding team, believe they have a legitimate shot at Kyrie Irving. But Kyrie going there just by himself or to play with D'Angelo Russell doesn't make a lot of sense, because he'd be leaving a young up-and-coming team with good young talent to go to Boston Light to a degree with a young up-and-coming team that is probably with worse.
And that isn't
talent.
Mannix being the Boston homer that I sometimes accuse you of being. That is 100% accurate. You would be leaving the same template for an inferior version of that template. I'm with you 1,000%.
And here's one thing I think I kind of know about Kyrie Irving. Kyrie would love to recreate the dynamic he had in Cleveland. Maybe not the roster or even with LeBron, but he wants the dynamic. Kyrie spent his formative years just basically sleepwalking through the regular season. It was like, we don't care. We'll get to the playoffs. We're really talented. It was LeBron's kind of attitude towards the regular season. He got to Boston, and he played for a coach in Brad Stevens that was incredibly process-oriented.
They were in conflict.
Yes, their relationship was not good. So, because Brad was all about let's get better, let's get better, let's get better. Let's be like what the Milwaukee Bucks were this year. Let's get better every single game. And Kyrie didn't really want to do that. I don't know where Kyrie can recreate that. Maybe if he goes to New York and they get Anthony Davis via trade and they get Kevin Durant to sign there. But if he goes to the Nets, he's playing for like Brad Stevens light in Kenny Atkinson there, who is another player development centric guy who's process oriented. I just don't know. I don't know that Kyrie is ever going to get the locker room dynamic, the regular season dynamic that he had in Cleveland, which I think he still craves.
I think that Kyrie is the wild card in all the free agents, but it is real. The interest in Brooklyn, and not only his interest, but the people that are close to him. One of his advisors wants him in New York. His dad potentially wants him with the Nets. That's been known for a long, long time. And I have a source that tells me that Kyrie is trying to pursue Kevin Durant. Now, it's not going to work, but he has reached out to them and tried to persuade him, and then that was validated, the information I had, based on what they did yesterday.
So this is, now I'll pull the curtain back a little bit. Cris, before this trade happened, a few days ago, said he heard Kyrie's trying to recruit Kevin Durant to Brooklyn. And I said to you, well, that's good for Kyrie, but I guess Kyrie doesn't know the salary cap the way I know the salary cap, because that ain't going to work. And then I saw this Woj bomb yesterday, and I saw Brooklyn that has been trying to dig their way out of pick hell that from the trade with your guy Danny Ainge, finally got out of it, and then just say, pick, go ahead, take it away, because we want cap space. And I immediately hit you up, and I said, okay, now maybe we're on to something here where Kyrie is trying to, we've talked about Kevin Durant setting up his business empire out here, wanting the East Coast hub in conflict, not in conflict, but comparison to LeBron's West Coast hub. Man, Brooklyn and Barclays and MSG are just a bridge away. So wherever your business is set up in Manhattan, you can still play, obviously, for the Nets. Now, that does not mean he'll be successful. And I don't think, tell me if you think I'm wrong, the Knicks are overly concerned that Kyrie's going to be able to convince Kevin Durant to join him in Brooklyn, but Brooklyn is laying the foundation to where they can have Kyrie and still keep D'Angelo, or have Kyrie let D'Angelo go and bring in another player.
And let's be fair to KD. KD is trying to concentrate on his body, trying to get back into this NBA final, and he's given Kyrie no indication that that's what he wants to do. Right now, if you're betting, you should bet Kyrie's going to go to Brooklyn, but you should be betting KD is going to go to the Knicks.
What does Brooklyn offer that the Knicks don't?
Infrastructure, for starters. I mean, look, they have the foundation of a team that, if you add Kyrie Irving to it, could take a step forward. Now, I don't know how big that step forward is. The Knicks, for decades now, have just said, look, we're the Knicks. We'll attract free agents. We've got Broadway. You've got a Manhattan address. You can do all. The Knicks have never shown the type of infrastructure that the Nets have. The Knicks now have David Fizdale, which I think is an alluring piece to add to that equation. But the Nets are certainly more fundamentally sound with their organization than the Knicks are.
I want to add one other thing, because I had heard earlier this week, when the Kyrie Nets stuff reached something of a fever pitch, that the plan in Brooklyn was going to be sign Kyrie and then try their damnedest, even if it was unlikely, to get in the Anthony Davis sweepstakes, to try to do exactly what Boston was trying to do, pair KD and AD and Kyrie together. This trade, to me, totally removes that from the table. You don't have you traded away your 2019 pick, you traded away your 2020 pick because of the rules. The only reason they could even do that is because they have the Nuggets 2019 pick this year.
And you can't do sign and trades.
There's a lot of complicating factors. They don't have the assets, and now they've traded away their picks.
And there's no way you can get Anthony Davis to commit long term.
And so for all these reasons, the Nets, if they were hoping to pair Kyrie and Anthony Davis via signing Kyrie and trading for Anthony Davis, that's now gone. It's Kyrie and D'Angelo, their hope of Kyrie and KD. Kyrie and Jimmy Butler, I think, is a very real possibility depending on what happens there. All those things are there. One last point. There is one place Kyrie could go and recreate the exact situation you're talking about with the exact guy. He had it with the first time, but he'd have to cross the country.
Just real quick, the team that's out there on the island is the Knicks right now, because the Nets, if they wind up with Kyrie and even Tobias Harris, who I think is pretty much is high on their radar as well, if they wind up with those two guys, it's worth dealing those 2 first-round picks. The Knicks traded Kristaps Porzingis to clear this cap space. And I don't want to hear any more about Porzingis didn't want to be there, was going to sign a 1-year contract. That's spin. They traded away a franchise cornerstone in his early 20s to clear double max cap space to get Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. If they only wind up with one, which they could have had anyway.
Well, I think they did. Hold on. I think that their hope was Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I think they traded away so it could be Kevin Durant and somebody.
Okay, but Kyrie's the only one I think is worth trading Porzingis for.
I think if they get KD and Kemba, I think it'd be well worth it.
That's debatable. I mean, Kemba's 29, 30 years old.
Well, if we had more time, we'd debate it. You'd lose.
Back to tonight's Game 4. Klay Thompson will suit up after missing Game 3 with that strained hammy. Warriors find themselves down 2-1 in the finals for the first time since they trailed Cleveland in 2015. Despite trailing and despite all their injuries, Steve Kerr says his team is unfazed by the situation.
It just feels like business as usual, honestly. I hope that doesn't sound arrogant, but the benefit of having been through 5 years of this is we have literally seen everything. We've lost a 3-1 lead in heartbreaking fashion. We've come back from 3-1 down. We've had to win a Game 7 on the road. We've been without Steph Curry for series. We've been without Kevin Durant. We were without Klay last night. Our opponents have been without key players. So you can name it, and we've seen it.
You almost feel bad for the Golden State Warriors with all the hardship they've had to deal with the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been so tough.
Nick, what do you make of Steve Kerr's confidence?
It's the only way the Warriors know how to operate. And it's how they've operated, honestly, ever since they won the first championship and then had that regular season. They will never panic. They believed after Kyrie hit that shot, Steve Kerr has said it. The only series they've lost in these 5 years. He said, I still thought we were going to win. At no point did I think we were not going to win until the confetti's falling, or the confetti didn't fall, but until the Cavs are celebrating and we didn't win. And since then, they have not lost a game that actually mattered. They have not been eliminated since Kyrie hit that shot. So I don't think it's false bravado. I think it's real bravado. I think the Golden State Warriors still feel like they are the favorites. I think the Golden State Warriors feel like as long as we've got 2 of our guys, of our top 3 as far as scorers in KD, Steph, and Klay, we're better than you. And you might say that the evidence is they're not. They've been outscored 10 of the 12 quarters. That they are dealing with more injuries in this playoff run than the 4 previous playoff runs combined. All that's true. But I don't think Steve Kerr, I don't think it's fake confidence. I think that is how they operate. And I think that if he were to alter that, I think that could affect the confidence of his players, which one of the best things they've had going for them in this run is the never failing belief of we're better than you. We will find a way.
Well, I disagree with you as far as they've never lost a game that was important. Because after a long layoff, them trying to repeat game number 1 in Toronto, the first series they didn't have home court advantage in the finals. Oh, they lost that game. So they come back in game number 2, which was the most important game in the series. They won that game, but game number 3, that game was very important at Oracle. I watched them lose that game. So Steve Kerr, just because you say things, that don't mean you have confidence. You confident Kevin Durant getting ready to play? No. Do you know how Klay is going to be on the court? You were apprehensive. That's the reason why you said, I don't want to play because I don't want to regret. So this is not the Steve Kerr that I have seen in this run. And this is different. And Steve Kerr is not telling the truth. They have not faced injury issues in the finals. The other team has faced all the injury issues. So this is totally different for anything. Them being down 2-1 is totally different. Them having to go on the road is totally different. Relying on their best player. I don't know if he's going to play. He hadn't played in 4 weeks. It's totally different. So I don't mind if you have confidence, but don't try to act like this is business as usual. This happens every year, because this has not happened to the Warriors. And the reason why their backs are against the wall are because of injuries. It's not because of, LeBron James is playing insane. No, it's all the other things. So this is different, and I believe that it's going to end very different for them.
When Draymond Green came out yesterday, we heard him talk about how, I get it. This is the situation. We're not fazed by this. We got to win this game. Win Game 7, we'll be set.
He didn't even take it to Game 7. He said, win Game 4, 5, 6, and become champions.
Sure.
I believe Draymond believes it. It doesn't mean that I'm saying it's, even though Warriors and 6 was my pick, doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and say, yes, that's what. I don't have the confidence that they have. But there are some teams that operate best in the nobody believed in us vein. And there are some teams that operate best in the everybody's afraid of us vein. And the Warriors have been operating in the everybody's afraid of us vein ever since they won that first title and then won 73 games. And then they doubled down on that because the only team that wasn't afraid of them, Cleveland, they got Kevin Durant to come help them against Cleveland almost exclusively.
Would you say it's their experience, though, that's really given them the edge? The fact that there's no scenario whereby they haven't been yet?
Let me jump in real quick on that. I think Chris's point is what's given them the edge throughout these playoff series among the talent. They were better, and they were always the healthy team. If there was injuries involved in a series, it was always the other team. And that was Steve Kerr now can say we've dealt with injuries. That's your point, is that all the other things they've seen before, they've never seen this part of it before.
They overmatched anyone that we've seen in the playoffs. I've been covering all these playoffs. Man, we tried to make up stories of how teams are going to compete against him. They had more talent. They had a better bench. They had a more veteran experience. They had all those things. They don't have that now. You know what their experience is? How good is Andre Iguodala now? Because we're going to leave him open tonight. How much confidence you got in him? Huh? Draymond Green, outside of 10 feet. How much confidence are you going to have in him? So this is totally different. I'm just looking at it that way. I'm not trying to make up something. They're down 2-1. Klay Thompson's coming off a strained hamstring, didn't play in game number 3. Which team do you have more confidence in? Right now, I believe, because they will not have Kevin Durant for an extended period of time, the Toronto Raptors. 12 quarters we've played, 10 times they've outscored me. So this is going to be one of those kind of things, when you play in the park and you upset the team that seems like they got more talent after the game, and be like, oh, man, let's play again. Well, listen, they only need 2 more wins. All right? So how much confidence are they going to keep having? Tomorrow, we're not going to be on the show Monday, be down 3-1. Oh, how much confidence you got in these Warriors? Just like I told y'all last week, I won't be surprised if we on the show and Toronto is in the finals. Okay, this team is better. We thought Milwaukee was better. When are we finally going to give Toronto credit? Kevin Durant's not coming through the door, people. This Toronto team will be world champions. It's just a matter of when they're going to win. They're going to win it in 6 They're going to win it in 7, but they are a better team than the Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr. And I know that Steve Kerr, behind all the microphone, him and his staff, they know that they have a formidable foe in the Raptors.
It's time for your
Purgatory
AT&T wake-up
could be
call.
forever. Perpetuity is forever.
You keep acting like that.
Exactly. Purgatory could be good.
Kevin Durant remains on the sideline, ruled out for tonight's Game 4 against the Raptors, but Steve Kerr says there's a good chance he plays in Game 5. And after missing Game 3, Klay Thompson is a go for tonight. Nick, do the Warriors have the edge with Klay returning but KD still out?
I believe the Warriors are going to win tonight, so if that means they got the edge, they got the edge. I think the Warriors are going to stave off what would be – this isn't an elimination game, but it is, to me, a de facto elimination game. You're not coming back from down 3-1 on a team as good as Toronto with the injuries that you have, being as undermanned as you are. And I do not think Kevin Durant's coming in to save the day in Game 5. Like, I think Kevin Durant, the earliest we could see him is Game 6, and that will be a lessened or a lesser Kevin Durant. So I think the Warriors have to win tonight, and I think they will win tonight.
Yeah, they have to win tonight. That don't mean they're going to win. Toronto Raptors, without Kevin Durant, are a better basketball team. That's why Jenna and I predicted them to be able to win this series. All they got to do is win their home games, and we're home free. Tonight would be the night that they could really put the Warriors and all this to bed as far as a three-peat, and they could also force Kevin Durant to try to play in a closeout game number 5.
All right, on to the controversy from Game 3. Kyle Lowry was involved in an incident on the sideline with a fan who we now know is Warriors investor Mark Stevens. Stevens shoved Lowry when he ended up in the crowd diving for a ball. The NBA has banned Stevens for 1 season, fined him $500,000. Nick, what did you make of this?
I think Adam Silver in the league did the absolute right thing. I was glad, by the way, that Kyle Lowry responded as professionally as he did, or else this could have altered the finals. Yeah. This could have been a really ugly. The
NBA was very fortunate that they had the type of man going into the stand, saving that ball, and was involved in this encounter.
Because that guy was going to push whoever he could, as long as it wasn't a Warrior. Whomever came into that crowd.
I don't necessarily know that. I don't give him that. I typically.
You don't. Okay, fair enough. The point I'm making is I don't know that every Raptor would have responded with the same restraint.
If that's Marc Gasol, does he push Marc Gasol?
I don't know. I think he pushes Serge. I think he pushes Serge Ibaka, and I don't know if Serge responds the way Lowry responds. Yes. That's the point I'm making. But Dylan Byers reported the Warriors' other owners might force him to sell his shares. But this is a real penalty for him, even if they don't. To be banished for the first year at the Chase Center. This guy's got courtside seats and a suite. At the very least, he's not going to be able to experience that the first year at the Chase Center next season. It is a just penalty. If not, they could have gone further.
No, they should go further. He shouldn't be associated with the NBA. There is no way they should allow a minority owner, majority owner, to be able to make contact that they initiated that contact with the NBA players, let alone a regular season game. We should be able to send the message, if you go to an NBA game, do not think you can touch the players. Where else do you think you can touch someone?
And by the way, even if he'd never touched him, a partial owner of the team telling him to go bleep himself.
Yes.
What are you doing? You're a damn near 60-year-old man. This is ridiculous.
All right, let's move on to the NFL now. Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz will be in Philly for a while. The team showed their faith in the oft-injured Wentz, signing him to a 4-year, $128 million extension with nearly $108 million guaranteed. See, you surprised with all that guaranteed money given his injury history?
I'm not surprised. Over the next 2.5 years, man, we're getting ready to see people back up the Brinks truck, Jenna, and they're getting ready to drop a bunch of cash. They're going to give you a little bit of it, too. But really these NFL quarterbacks, man, they're getting ready to get paid. We're getting ready to see NBA-like contracts going to guys like Carson Wentz. It's going to be a number. There's at least 5. Nick goes through them all the time. The young guns that we have that will be coming up on contracts in the next couple of years. I'm just surprised at the timing. I thought that they might wait another 6 to 9 months because there's 2 years left on that contract.
And the 2 guys that are next up of the young quarterbacks, one shares an agent with Carson Wentz. That's Jared Goff.
Oh, okay.
And the other shares a division with Carson Wentz. That's Dak Prescott. They are all the same draft class. Goff has 2 years left on his deal because of the 5th-year option like Wentz did. Dak only has the 1 year left. This is not a question of ability. It's a question of availability. The guy had a broken wrist in college, cracked ribs his first year in the NFL, blew up his knee his second year, had a stress fracture in his back the 3rd year. If he can stay on the field, this is a very good contract for Philadelphia.
All right, finally, Tom Brady received his 6th Super Bowl ring yesterday, but winning his 7th might be the tough one. Not easy to win without a Gronk on your team, and Gronk says he does not want to be on a team. Despite him saying that, reports are the Patriots do expect him back this season. Until then, Brady says it is on him to figure out how to duplicate success with a depleted group of weapons.
No one's going to make any excuses for our offense. We're going to do everything we can to be the best we can be, score every time we touch the ball, and tight end position is a big part of our offense, and those guys are going to have to do a great job for us.
At this point, CC, would it be foolish for the Pats to rely on Gronk's return from retirement? Should they assume they don't have him and move on from there?
To me, this is very, very easy. This is one of the most unpredictable New England things I've ever heard of. Like, people think New England, like they think, oh, man, what about New England? New England does things a certain way. It wouldn't be this way. Oh, you know, player retires. Oh, you know something? Take your time, come back week 10, week 12. That's not what they do. They slowly build their team. They go through training camp. They try guys out at different positions. They get in the first month of the season, and that's like training camp. The first 4 games, they're going to experiment a whole lot. If you want to beat New England, you need to catch them early. Man, October, they start retooling. They get momentum in November and December, and they are ready to peak once they get to the playoffs. So you're saying that the one player on their roster that they're going to allow to hijack the franchise and be like, I'm not going to do it the New England way. I'm just going to hang out, do whatever I want. And then late in the football season, I'm getting ready. There's no one who respects the process of developing football players, not only from an X's and O's standpoint, but a conditioning, what they need, more than the New England Patriots. This is what they do. And trying to think that Gronk and New England have an understanding, I'm going to come back later on. No, I don't believe that. I watch them how they do business, and I would be shocked if this was a plan. Now, Gronk trying to come back and play, I wouldn't be shocked about that because we've seen too many good players trying to come back and play this game. But thinking that New England is in agreement with Rob Gronkowski and his agent that he's going to come back later in the season, no, that's not the way they do business.
This is the New England Patriots. You remember when Roger Clemens signed with the Houston Astros? And it's like, hey, you don't have to pitch in road games. They had all this thing set up because, A, they didn't have the organizational infrastructure of 20 years of high-level success that the Patriots have, and B, Clemens was the best player in the league at what he does. The Patriots have the infrastructure, and Gronk, while those were enormous moments, in the biggest moments even last year, a lesser Gronk still made the biggest plays. In that Chiefs game, AFC Championship game, Gronk showed up when they needed him, and the single biggest offensive play of the Super Bowl was not the touchdown. It was the play that led to the touchdown. So I'm not doubting Gronk's ability to channel it momentarily, but what would they be relying on? His 47 catches? His 3 regular season touchdowns?
No.
Listen, Gronk is... Go ahead, Jenna.
This is what you rely on. You rely on the one game where you absolutely know you need a couple of first downs. You relied on the one game where you know you need to win this one game. You don't have him for a full game, for a full season. But when Tom Brady knows that this ball needs to be caught and you need to get a first down,
that if you haven't been on the team. I don't know that. I don't think you can just be out of football all year and then all of a sudden come in and be that guy in the biggest moments. I think you can be within the team and after having been training all year, playing all year, channel a former version of yourself for moments, but to not be with the team till Halloween and then all of a sudden be a guy who's going to show up in the biggest spots, I don't find it realistic. And obviously I think Cris is right in that this would be so different than anything we've ever seen the Patriots do. It's not like they were forcing Gronk to retire. They would have welcomed him back. He said, I want to retire. For the idea that they would be saying behind the scenes, Gronk, we know you're coming back. Take your time. It would just be a first. It would be something we haven't seen from the Patriots.
New England Patriots and Tom Brady, they have moved on from every receiver that was his favorite target. And they moved on quick. It was swift. All right, his number one target, the wide receiver that played both ways.
Troy Brown.
Oh, what are we going to do with him? Oh, they moved on from him.
Right, then
Deion Branch. Super Bowl. Moved on from him. What about Randy Moss? Best season he ever had. Straight cash homie. Straight moved on from him. Wes Welker, his new best friend. Wife was tweeting, shoot, he can't throw it and catch it. Moved on from him. Hernandez, tragic. Moved on from him. Yep. If you think you watching New England think one person, like, people don't come back to New England. They made an adjustment by Josh McDaniel coming back. Coach Mangini, there's a reason why he didn't go back to New England. That ain't what Belichick believe in. Once you go out that door, you gone. He don't expect to see you again. And for us to think that he's getting ready to change the way he's getting ready to develop players over one player, no, that's not Belichick. It's not the Belichick that I know, love, and respect.
FS1's your destination for the day's best sports shows. Tune in for the biggest personalities on the biggest stories. We get you started right here on First Things First. Catch it on Monday through Friday, only on FS1. Let's talk Raptors with Chris Mannix. The starting unit for Toronto dominated Game 3, combining for 106 points with all 5 starters, scoring at least 17. They'll have a shot to take a 3-1 lead in the finals tonight as they face a continually hobbled Warriors team, even with Klay Thompson back. Mannix, will the Raptors' offensive success carry over from Games 3 to 4?
I think so, because I think they've been, since Game 2 of that conference finals against Milwaukee, I think they've been a more complete offensive team. Since that Game 2, you have seen the likes of Fred VanVleet. You have seen Pascal Siakam, who did play pretty well in the first game of that Milwaukee series. But you have seen Serge Ibaka. You have seen different guys step up and not necessarily give you 15, 20 points, but give you 9 or 11 or 13 points in that way. I think their depth offensively has been very good since early in that Milwaukee series, and I think it's capable of carrying over. I don't see, when I watch this Raptors team in the finals, I don't see kind of that look of fear in their eyes, this deer in the headlights kind of look from the guys that haven't been there. Like, I don't expect to see it from Ibaka or Kawhi or Danny Green, but I don't see it from VanVleet. I don't see it from Marc Gasol, who, despite the fact he's been to a conference finals, has never been to this stage before either. So I think the Raptors' offensive talent is absolutely going to carry over.
And the Warriors don't match up well. It's the first time in this run we've ever talked about it. With Looney being out, you know something? We can't hide Boogie Cousins. We can't hide Andrew Bogut. We didn't expect either one of them. If they were being honest with Steve Kerr at that press conference, ain't a whole bunch of honesty coming up out of his mouth. He wouldn't have told you, man, I'm getting ready to depend on Boogie Cousins after playing him 10 minutes in the first game. Oh, we're getting ready to ramp him up to 28-30. Oh, no. And I got to play Bogut, 20-something? So that helps Gasol. Gasol has a favorable matchup. Now, with Draymond's been on a game, off a game, and then I expect him to ramp it up tonight and play well. Iggy at this point, how well and consistent can he play? And I can guarantee you, they're going to leave him wide open to be able to shoot. So this is not a great matchup. And with Klay being dinged a little bit, I believe that Kawhi, who joined a very illustrious class as far as 6 other players with his 30-point game, I believe he goes for 30 tonight. So when you get 30, you only need so much. And I just believe that Kyle Lowry, his ability to shoot the ball from deep, it gives them that extra. But I think you make a great point. Their players who haven't been there have been very comfortable in the spotlight, led by VanVleet.
And see those other 6 players who have scored at least 30 in 13 playoff games in a run: Akeem, Shaq, Iverson, Kobe, LeBron, Michael. It is an illustrious class, and it means you not only went on a deep playoff run, but you were the driving force behind that playoff run. We were talking earlier about the confidence the Warriors are exuding, whether it's false bravado. I don't think it's false bravado. I think it's real bravado. But they are now dealing with an opponent for the first time, I believe, since 2016, where their opponent believes, okay, you can be as confident as you want, but we're actually better. I think the Cavs believed they were better in 2015 and got hurt. And I think to this day, you talk to those guys, man, if we didn't get hurt, we had them. And then in 2016, they did it. In 2017, I know that those Cavs teams thought they was the best version of them, but it was the first year with Kevin Durant. That Warriors team had just blown through everyone en route to the NBA Finals. I don't think they actually thought they were better, and obviously the Cavs last year didn't think they were better. The Raptors can look at this series and say, we have been the better team. If not, the Raptors can say, even if I don't believe it, they can say, if not for a 5-minute lapse, we're up 3-0. 5 minutes of third quarter of the third quarter of game 2, that 18-0 run is Toronto saying that's why we're not up 3-0. Now, can they duplicate their offensive success? The 50, 40, 90, the part of that that's going to be the hardest to duplicate as a team is the 40. Shooting 40% from 3 in an NBA Finals game on that many attempts is incredibly difficult. If they do that again, they will win. If they do that again, they will be up 3-1 and they will be en route to proving you right that they will be NBA champions.
But sometimes when people look at stats, they forget the context of the game. They had to do that to overcome Steph.
No, I'm talking about the Raptors. The Raptors are the ones that shot. Oh, I see what you're saying. The Raptors had to do it to overcome Steph.
They had to. Do you expect Steph to go
for 47? No.
Right. So a lot of times when you don't look at the game, then like they had to do that. So what do you think's more capable of repeating? What happened to Warriors shooting? I mean, the Raptors, how they shot the ball, or Steph going for that? More likely to happen to me, the Raptors performing the way they did in Game 3.
So what is the Raptors' game plan tonight? What's their approach? Is it similar? I mean, I know you have Klay back. We also all here don't think Klay's going to be 100%. But what's the game plan? Is it stopping Steph Curry?
I think you're still loading up on Steph Curry. I think offensively, as long as Klay's out there on the floor, you have to keep a body on him because even if he's not a threat to go to the basket, his jump shot's not going to go away because of a sore hamstring. But you have to try to make Steph more inefficient. Even if he goes for 47, that's fine. I thought was most impressive about Steph was 14 for 31. That's a great percentage for a perimeter player who is getting loaded up on every single time. So I think the game plan's just got to be continue to throw bodies at him. But look, it sounds kind of crazy, but with a dinged up Klay Thompson and without Kevin Durant, I think Toronto's the better offensive team than Golden State right now. I mean, I just think they're more complete. One thing about the Raptors that goes completely underappreciated coming into this postseason was that they added a superstar in Kawhi Leonard, but the chemistry with that team was there. They were a group of guys that were together for 2 or 3 years that had only lost to LeBron James in the postseason. They are extremely comfortable playing together, and I think that's contributed to that sort of calmness you see out there on the floor from those guys.
You make a great point. That is underappreciated. What they did during the regular season's underappreciated. What they did when Kawhi Leonard wasn't in the lineup is underappreciated. The 2 wins they had against Golden State during the regular season, underappreciated. So now they've played Golden State 5 times this year, all right? And they've beaten them 4 times in the last 8 or 9 months. And let's not forget, let's look at the last 7 games. They've won 6 of them. They could have won 7 in a row against the Milwaukee Bucks, 60-win, and the world champion, 2-time defending world champion. If they didn't have those bad 5 minutes, they would have won 7 games in a row. At some point, you got to give some respect to what they're doing.
And you guys are looking at the short lens. The longer lens is this. In the last 3 years in the NBA, number 1 in wins is the Golden State Warriors, obviously. Number 2 in wins, the Toronto Raptors. And this is the best version of the Raptors, which is why we're in store for, I think, the best NBA Finals we've had since 2016.
Tomorrow we got 2 of the best rivalries in baseball. Heading our coverage, also headlining it. Most of the country will see the Cardinals take on the Cubs, while others will catch the Dodgers taking on the Giants. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Check your local listings for the game in your area.
Let's go, Cubbies. Beat those hated Cardinals.
Back here talking NBA Finals with Chris Mannix. Klay Thompson, who missed Game 3, will play Game 4. Kevin Durant, who missed the last 8 games, will not play Game 4. Steve Kerr said there is a good chance KD will play in Game 5 or 6. Klay Thompson spoke about what it would mean if KD were to miss the finals entirely.
Well, it would suck if Kevin can't come back. I mean, I still think we'd have a good chance to win the finals, but obviously that takes a huge hit. I don't think it would make us the clear-cut favorite anymore without him. You know, this team's very good.
We just love the candor of the Golden State Warriors. Like, as a team, like, they just sort of say...
from Klay.
Whatever.
Right, but Draymond always too. Candid. Steph is usually pretty candid, too. I love that team. Like,
Kerr is as well.
Yeah.
Kerr is as well. Who is the favorite in this series if KD doesn't return?
Oh, it's Toronto. I mean, I still, again, we can have a different conversation on Monday if Klay Thompson comes back and looks exactly like the Klay Thompson we saw before the injury. But if he is significantly slowed, it's impossible to look at this series and say Toronto isn't the favorite. Now, we discussed this yesterday. I disagree with what Jeff Van Gundy said when he said that this Warriors team wasn't a playoff team, but it certainly isn't a finals team, and it's probably not a team that gets out of the Western Conference as currently constituted. So without Kevin Durant and with a hobbled Klay Thompson, Toronto is a clear favorite in my eyes.
Tonight, what's important is where is Klay? And not only where is he during the game, but even if they're able to win the game, does he have a setback? Is it going to hamper him moving forward? Hamstring injuries do not heal overnight. 2 nights ago, he could not play. Steve Kerr said after the game that if I would have let him play, I would have jeopardized the whole series. Do we think that's not changed in 48 hours? Like there is no miraculous cure for a hamstring. His hamstring is strained. He will go into tonight's competition with it being strained. Can he come out of there? Can he make it through? Can he play 30 minutes? Can he make it through the game? I don't think that he can make it through the game without doing more damage to it. So game number 5, will he be 100%? Game number 6, will he be 100%? Toronto is a better basketball team than them without Kevin Durant. That's why we picked him to be able to win the series, Nick.
All right, so let's talk about it under that lens for now. Let's just, for the sake, because I think everyone at the table is going to agree that if KD doesn't return and if Klay suffers a setback, or if we see Klay and he's 50%, then the Warriors are in enormous trouble. So for the sake of the discussion, let's say these two things are true. Klay comes back, plays relatively well, is not the Klay Thompson from before the injury, but looks like, okay, he's a big addition from what they had, and KD does not come back. If that is the parameters, Klay plays adequate, and Kevin Durant is out, do you think the Warriors can win the series? Because I think they can. I think they can win without Kevin Durant. I don't think they have to have KD come back to win this series, but I do think they need Klay Thompson to be as close to pre-hamstring injury as possible. We know what we're getting from Steph. I think Draymond becomes so much more effective the moment Klay's on the court, because what's Draymond's best offensive skill? His playmaking. When he's passing it to Alfonso McKinney, those passes go to die. When he's passing it to Klay Thompson, guys help out on him.
Alfonso McKinney was running 100%. Klay's not going to be 100%. Like, we just think that we getting ready to see Klay, all-star Klay. And he's getting ready to remove all the remedies. If I leave Iggy open, I don't care who's on the court. It don't matter if Klay's on the court. If he can't shoot and don't have confidence to be able to shoot, who's gonna be able to take double shots?
No, I agree with you on the Iggy point. Where I think we disagree is what percent of Klay Thompson is better than 100% of Alfonso McKinney, than 400% of Jonas Jerebko. Like, what percentage of Klay Thompson do we need for the Warriors to be a better team than they were in game number 3?
Well, I think that question is for the defensive purposes. Like, I think you got to get into the 80s or even low 90s to make Alfonso McKinney not a better option, just because a guy like McKinney or even Quinn Cook can stay in front of somebody defensively. I'm with you. Like, I would rather see 70% of Klay on the offensive end of the floor, but if he's, playing that Dino Raja type style, to use an old name, where he's, scoring 25 but giving up 30, that's problematic for them.
And what about Kevon Looney? When are we going to mention him?
No, the Kevon Looney was something we probably should have talked about more leading into Game 3, because that was an enormous part of their defensive liability, was Boogie and Bogut not being able to move their feet.
Right, so this is confidence that I have, Nick. When I didn't think KD was going to play, Jen and I sat down, broke it down, tell the tape. We came up with Toronto's going to win. That was before Klay strained his hamstring, and that was before they lost their starting center. So that's the confidence that I have after seeing them 12 quarters. You keep repeating it, but obviously you're not listening to what you're saying. They've played 12 quarters. Oh, my buddy over there said how many quarters have they won, Nick?
Toronto's won 10 of the 12.
So what type of confidence would you have? And Klay was on the court for 7 of those quarters predominantly. Yes. So that's the confidence that I have in the Raptors moving forward.
Is tonight a must-win game for Golden State, Chris?
No, not if they can get Kevin Durant back into the lineup, which I grow, like everybody else, more and more skeptical of every single day. You guys talked about this earlier. They are kind of pushing the goalposts back a little bit, saying, well, maybe Game 5 or Game 6. It's getting to the point where there's no practice time. Kevin Durant's not going full 5-on-5 or even 3-on-3 at a high level at this point. It's getting more and more unlikely. But in the hypothetical, if they go down 3-1 and you give Klay 2 full days to rest, and he does find a way to get back to close to 100%, and Kevin Durant gets on the floor, even at 75%, no matter what, we're not getting the old Kevin Durant back in this series. Just not going to happen. He's not going to be sharp enough. But at 75%, we throw a percentage around, and 190% of Klay, yes, I think Golden State can still come back down 3-1.
In the last 5 years, we have seen Golden State. We witnessed for the first time someone within the Warriors organization say that they're better than us. Even when Cleveland came back from 3-1, you know what their excuse was? Well, Draymond got thrown out. We're better than them. Okay? This is the first time. And Klay, he's the truth teller. He said it. If KD does not come back, what? Oh, this team is better than us. I'm concerned about it. Steve Kerr hadn't said that. Draymond hadn't said that. For the first time, they have legitimate concern because the injuries are happening to them and not the opposition, and they don't have home court.
I think tonight is an absolute must-win for the Warriors. Like, it's odd because you think the Raptors are in control, but that the Warriors could lose this game and potentially still come back.
Just because of their star power.
No,
super star power.
And you're not the only person that believes that thinks, listen, as long as KD comes back, could they win 3 in a row? I do not think Toronto is. If Toronto wins tonight, they will have, to Chris's point, won 7 of 8 games against Milwaukee and Golden State. They will be the healthier team. They will be this close to the greatest moment in franchise history. I don't think that's what's going to follow that up is loss. 2 of those games in Toronto, including a Game 7 at home. I think Golden State can, and I think they still will win the series. But they have to win tonight for that to be a possibility.
Nick is right. He's typically wrong, but he's right about that because you can't rely on being down 3-1 and game number 5 on Monday and think that Kevin Durant, because we have said it's a strained calf. I'm willing to bet money that he's torn part of his calf. That's the reason why he's been out a month. A strained calf, you're healed before a month. He's been out. I believe it's torn. He can't play 3 games at Kevin Durant level in 6 days. All right, because that's what he would have to do. They play on Monday, they play Thursday, and they would play Sunday. If y'all think that, I don't know anything about sports. I don't know anything about the physical body. He's going to play 3 games in those 6 days with a torn calf. I'm talking about NBA Finals level of intensity.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.